Welcome to this webinar. I'm your host, Charlotte, from the admissions office at Jönköping University. So welcome to this webinar on how to apply for a residence permit for study for pathway year and pathway semester, starting autumn 2024. This is on how to apply and what to remember. To find the information, you can visit our website through the admissions website and then find visa requirement, or you can go straight to ju.se/study permit. So the residence permit for study is also known as a study permit, and that is how I'm going to refer to the permit mostly. First, you have to remember what you're admitted to. It's stated on your letter of acceptance. So it depends on what you're admitted to, what documents you need to submit. So this webinar is for pathway year and pathway semester. Now, it doesn't matter what type of pathway year you're admitted to. A pathway year program or a pathway semester program. Number one is you need to have your proof of the paid program fee, your letter of acceptance, proof of emergency health insurance. That is your letter of acceptance. Page 2 includes information about the emergency health insurance. If you have pre-existing condition, if you already have a medical problem, if you have asthma or some sort of other medical issue, the emergency health insurance will not cover any doctor visits. So then you will have to have an extra health insurance purchased in your home country. If you don't have a medical issue already, you don't have to have the extra health insurance. Make sure that your passport is valid for the duration of the residence permit dates, or then if you're a pathway year student, the full academic year, the passport needs to be valid. You also need to show a bank statement that is in your name, in English, and the currency must be stated on the statement. You don't have to open a separate account in a different currency, as long as the currency that you're using is stated on the bank statement. If you have 2 accounts and you have money in all of the accounts, you can submit bank statement for both accounts. Now, this statement or certificate cannot be issued more than 4 months before the start of the permit period. So you're going to start August 26th. You are allowed to apply for a permit that starts August 1st. So that means that the bank statement cannot be issued before 1st of April. You have to wait until after 1st of April to get the bank statement that you can submit. Please note that if you have applied to and been pre-assessed for a bachelor or master program that starts after you have completed the pathway program, you can only apply for a residence permit for the pathway studies. So you have received a letter of acceptance. That is what you can apply for a residence permit for study 4 at this point. And the dates on your letter of acceptance are the dates that you need for filling out the application for study permit. Now, the pathway program fee includes boarding fee, that's food and accommodation, and more. Now, the monthly maintenance requirement on the migration agency website, being able to support yourself financially, that you have money enough. So for 2024, the minimum is 10,314 Swedish crowns per month. Now, when you have prepaid food and accommodation, you can deduct that from the minimum requirement. So it's possible to deduct this much for prepaid food and prepaid accommodation this much. So in total, you can deduct 7,449 Swedish kronor per month. So the minimum maintenance requirement for you is 2,865 kronor per month. So pathway semester is 4 months long. So then you're applying for a study permit, and then you can deduct 4 months time this to show that you can support yourself during pathway semester. Pathway year students, your program fee is divided into 2 invoices. So the first invoice is for the autumn semester. So that means that you can only deduct from the maintenance requirement for the autumn semester. In your case, that's 5 months. Since you haven't paid for the spring semester boarding fee, you need to show that during the spring semester, January until the end, which is stated on your letter of acceptance, then you have to have 10,314 Swedish kron per month. So that's the difference now between pathway year and pathway semester, and not having to show the full minimum money requirement. So because you have prepaid part of the food and accommodation. Now, to show what you have paid, you log on to the payment system to download the proof of the payment. So you do that under tuition fee periods, and then you see your the period that's paid. You click on the PDF icon here, and that opens your paid invoice. And this green stamp means that it's been paid. We also notify the migration agency that we have received payment. But in this case, you have the boarding fee showing as paid here. So that's the important thing. If you don't want to show the full 10,413 Swedish kronor per month, you need to submit this. So in order to apply for a study permit, you have to have paid the tuition fee, and in this case, the full program fee invoice. Now in Sweden, due dates are written year, month, day. So in this case, this means 2024, March 6th. So that's how you read the due date. If you haven't paid the invoice already, do it as soon as possible, because the migration agency will not process your application for a study permit until after we have told them that you have paid. So the length of the programs, Pathway Year English ends in May, and it's 9 months long. Pathway Year General ends in June, it's 10 months long. So again, you can only deduct the amount for 5 months from what you have to show that you have to support yourself. Pathway semester is 4 months, and you can show that you have paid food and accommodation for the whole pathway semester. Some tips when you before you fill out the application for study permits. If an application is missing any documents and the migration agency has to contact you and ask you to submit more documents, the process will take longer. So try to send in your application complete, every document. So wait until you have every document ready and you submit the whole thing. Passport. If your passport is about to expire or will expire during this pathway semester or pathway year, make sure you have extended your passport so that it's valid, because a study permit cannot be granted beyond the date your passport expires. So if you're admitted to pathway year that ends in June and your passport expires in March, the migration agency cannot grant a permit beyond March. So then you have to get a new passport and apply for an extension of the current permit that expires in March. So try to have everything completed before you're preparing to apply for a study permit. Read up on the pathway program you're admitted to. Learn about the required classes on the program website. So there are, on our JU web, we have the information about pathway semester, pathway year English, pathway year general. So look at that and see what you will be studying, what you can choose for elective classes. For example, for pathway year, you can choose some elective classes. So study up on that. Write your reasons for studying in Sweden. That's your motivation, the why study in Sweden. Write in your own words as much as you can. Explain your plans for the future, what you hope the pathway program will help you achieve. For instance, meeting the English requirements for a program at JU or another Swedish university, preparing for the Swedish academic system, experience life in Sweden, and so on. So, and if you have been pre-assessed for the follow-up program, you need to know which program and when it will start. And again, a follow-up program will start next August of 2025. So if you receive the offer, it states that you've been pre-assessed for a program that starts in August of 2025. Know that you do not have to reapply. You have to pass pathway. That is how you are. You will be admitted to the follow-up program. So you applied for pathway program plus a bachelor or master program, and you've been admitted to the pathway program. And as long as you pass the pathway program, you have a guaranteed spot in the master or bachelor program, as long as that program isn't canceled or something major has changed. So know what that program is and why you want to study that and why you need to do the pathway in order to study the follow-up program. Now, some common mistakes when you apply for study permits. If the application is not complete, so you're missing something, that's a common mistake. So try to avoid that. Again, the bank account must be in your name and it cannot be shared with, for instance, your parents, because they're not coming with you to live in Sweden. So it can't be shared with anyone unless it's a spouse that is applying for a residence permit to accompany the student. That's the only time. Or if you're under 18, then you might have to have your parents' permission to study abroad, and then their name can be on your bank account. But when you're over 18, the account should be in your name. The bank statement must have the date it was issued, the name of the account holder, that's you who own the account, and the currency. And it has to be in English or officially translated into English. Maybe you have a grant or something for your living expenses. And that grant it cannot be a person that gives you the money. In this case, the migration agency is talking about scholarships or grants from organizations, big companies, that kind of thing. So if you have that, the document must include an amount, or that the applicant can use those funds, that money, how they like. So, and it's always the living expenses that's of interest, not anything that has to do with tuition fee scholarships, only living expenses, because that's separate. The passport, you need to submit a copy of. The numbers and the letterings, the numbers and letters at the top and the bottom of the pages, they have to be visible. You have to be able to read them. If the signature is on a different page than your photo and information, name, date, place of birth, then that page has also got to be copied and submitted. And another mistake is not knowing what you're admitted to. So know exactly what you're admitted to. We're going to talk about the application online for the study permit at migrationsverket.se, and then English, and then study in Sweden, higher education. So it's higher education. Now, if you cannot apply online, for instance, if you don't have a card to pay the application fee with, or you're in a country, for example, Iran, then you have to apply directly at the embassy or consulate general, and then you can pay by cash at the embassy or consulate general. But we're talking about the online application here. So when you click on apply for residence permit for studies in higher education, the pathway is higher education. The e-services, that's where you click. But note that this information on this page is important. So read through that before you go to submit. You then need to log in with an account or create a new account. So if you've never applied for a permit to Sweden before, you need to create the account. So you click on create new account, and then you put your email and you choose a password, confirm the password, check this box, I accept, and check box that I'm not a robot, and click next. Note, you have to be able to access this email address. So this is the email address that the migration agency will contact you on. Once you click next, a code will be sent to that email address, and it's valid for 15 minutes. You have to enter the code here to go to the next step. And you should use a two-step verification, or you won't be able to log in and see the application again. So with a two-step, you use a phone to receive a text message. So you click here to turn on the two-step verification. In this box, you will it's a drop down, so then you find the country where you have your phone to get that country code, and then you enter your phone number after your country code. And note that the phone number can only be used one time for one account. So if the phone number has been used for someone else's account, you can't use the same number again. So you need to have access to that phone, because when you click next, they will send a verification code to the phone, text message. It's valid for 5 minutes, and you enter it here and click next. And then you created your account, and you can close that. The next step is to start an application. So type of application, it's a first-time permit. Click next, and then you're going to put your personal information, your name, birth date, citizenship, marital status. And then you click next again, and then you put your home address. And then you click next, and then it's information about your travel document, passport. And then you click next. And this is when you choose which embassy or consulate that is closest to you through the drop-down box to find the one closest to you. When it comes to Pakistan, I think it's still closed. So check the Swedish embassy website for information. I think it's Addis Ababa. That is the one for Pakistani citizens to visit. Then you click next. And again, these little boxes at the bottom, when you click next, it says continue at another time. That means that if you discover here that, oh, I'm missing this document, you can save it, save the application, and go back another time. So when you click there, this is what comes up. When you started the application, you received this message from the migration agency that you started a registration. And then there's a link to resume the application. You have to have this link to get back to where you were. If you come here and you're not quite sure, you can resend the link just to be on the safe side. They're going to ask you if you previously applied, yes or no. If you have never, then click no. If you have, you click next, and then they will ask if you have a previous control number or a case number. If you don't remember it, then you just skip it and click next. They will check with your passport anyways. They will ask you other questions like if you have a valid permit in another country other than your home country. They will ask if you've ever visited any country in the Schengen area other than Sweden in the past year. So that's in the past year from when you're submitting this application. So it's either yes or no, and then next. They're going to ask you where you currently are. So are you in Sweden? No, you shouldn't be. And then they're asking, this is the important thing, application period. The period you want to apply for a residence permit for studies for. So this is where your letter of acceptance comes in. The start date is on your letter of acceptance. Pathway year and pathway semester starts on August 26th. The end date is also clearly stated on your letter of acceptance. So that's the end date. You can add a week or two after. Usually the migration agency will give you 2 more weeks anyway. Then they're asking about what kind of studies. So in this case, it's going to be university or university college, undergraduate or master level. Our pathway programs are at undergraduate, bachelor level. And what type of studies? It's a university program. And then you click next again. Are you admitted to distance learning? No, because this is a campus-based program. And a study permit can only be issued for campus-based programs, not distance programs. Have you paid the tuition fee for your education in Sweden? Yes. And you have to have paid and be able to upload proof of your payment. And then the migration agency will double check that with electronically their system to our system after they start to review your application. You click next again. Then it will ask information about how many higher education credits. So pathway semester is 30 credits. Pathway year is 60 credits. So that's what you put here. Then you click next. And then you write the name of the program. So pathway semester English autumn, or pathway year general, or pathway year English. The name is on your letter of acceptance again. And then you find Jönköping University in a drop down. So you don't have to write it. You find it in a list. Click on the arrows and there's a list and you can look for it. Then you upload the acceptance letter here. Click and upload. And it can be, you can go back and do it later. Then you click next. And this will show what you have entered in the previous section. You can go back and edit the program name here if you made a mistake. And then you click next. This section here, this is where you explain the reason why you want to study this particular pathway program, why you need to study it, and what you plan to use it for. Like I said, if you have to take the pathway to be able to do a bachelor or master program because of the English. This is where you explain this, and then what you want to do with the follow-up program as well. But you'll have to write that again when you apply for permit for the follow-up program. If you have a current employment, you write that here. If you don't have employment now, you can skip it. They will ask you about previous education. So if you recently graduated from high school, that's what you put, the name of your school, the type of education, if it's high school, or if it's a university, and then your bachelor in something, and the date you graduate. And when you click next, you see what you have written, and then you can edit that later on. And then you click next. If you have work experience, you enter that. If you don't have any work experience, you skip that. You don't click on this button, then you just click next if you've never been employed. They're going to ask you about your financial assets. So, do you have a scholarship? This is where they're asking if you have a scholarship from Sweden for living costs. So if you don't have that, and we don't offer that, then you click no, and that just sends you straight to the next information. This is where you show them the bank statement. So you click add to add the document that you want to put up. And then if it's, in this case, own bank assets, that's your bank statement, or statements if you have more accounts than one. If you have a scholarship or a company or a big organization that's sponsoring you, not an individual, not a person, a company, that is where you put that kind of scholarship or sponsor. Usually it's own bank assets, perhaps sometimes student loan. Then you click next. And this is where you enter how much money you have. It should match what is on your bank statement. So the amount here and what currency it is. And then you click next, and it will ask you to upload that bank statement. And then you click next again. So there's a lot of next, enter, next, enter information, or upload something, and then next. Here we have the information. They're asking if food and accommodation is managed by the education organization. And in this case, you have prepaid parts of the boarding fee. Pathway semester, the full semester, both food and accommodation. Pathway year, you can only reduce the requirement with 5 months. But in this case, you say yes in both of those. Instead of no, you're saying yes. And then you click next. And then you will be able to, again, I think, upload your paid invoice that shows how much you've already paid and for what you've already paid. Now, if you are bringing a spouse and or children, that's a co-applicant. And yes, you can bring family members, but remember that I can only show you that this is an option. If you click yes here, then you have to enter that information. We're not going to go through this anymore. And also note that the boarding fee for Pathway is for the student. The accommodation is for the student. So if you're bringing family, you have to arrange accommodation on your own. There's a webinar on the Pathway accommodation next week on the 26th. And we'll talk more about the boarding fee and the student accommodation at Campus Gränna then. Other information. This is where you give them any additional information. For instance, if the spelling of your name is different in the letter of acceptance from what's in your passport, when this happens, when there's translation issues, especially from languages that not using the Latin alphabet, this alphabet that we're looking at now. So for instance, Chinese or Arabic writing. Sometimes the translation, you can write your name in 2 or 3 different ways. And maybe you have several documents and you have different spellings and different names. So this is a place for you to put that information so that they know. After you click next here, you will get to an overview where you can see all of your answers. And you can go in and change the answers if you see, oh no, I made a mistake here. You go in and you make the changes. You can download the draft as a PDF. But once you know that, okay, I've entered everything, I uploaded all the necessary documents, I'm ready. Then you click next, and that will take you to paying the application fee, which is 1,500 Swedish kronor, and you do that according to the instructions. Once you've paid the application fee and submitted the application, you cannot go back and make any changes. You can only do that before you pay the application fee, when you look at the overview and double check your answers. So once you've done this, what happens after you've submitted your application? Well, you will need to visit a Swedish embassy or consulate general to show your passport in person, in original. You should then have your photo taken and fingerprints collected at the same time that you show your passport, to avoid unnecessary travel to the Swedish embassy. You might be called for an interview. So try, if you're going to the Swedish embassy for all of these reasons, try to book everything in one session. So you only have to visit one time to do this. And then the next time will be to collect the permit card, as long as you're granted residence permit. Now, the Swedish Migration Agency, they will contact you to say that you need to visit what they call Swedish Foreign Mission. That's the embassy or consulate general. They will tell you that you need to show your passport. They will tell you if you have to go through an interview. So all of that they will tell you in that case. So you can only travel to Sweden after you have been granted the study permit. If you have to have an entry visa as well, you have to wait for the permit card before you can travel to Sweden. After a decision where you're granted a residence permit, it could take up to 4 weeks before you get the card. And it could take it could take 3 to 5 months to get a decision. So the sooner you're paying the fee after you've been admitted, the sooner you can start the process with the study permit application. So the longer, if you wait too long to pay the program fee, and then you wait to submit the study permit application, everything gets delayed. And there's a risk you might not get a decision in time. So thank you for joining, and I hope to see you in August.